So this might not be UX specific, but when I was hiring for my team, I really looked for problem solving. So if you can specify or provide any examples of creative problem solving, I think it'll make you stand out a lot. It doesn't have to be related to the field you're applying to, but interesting examples always make candidates stand out.
Working on a team and knowing how to collaborate with people across different disciplines is always very helpful, standing out for a position.
I think just being open to, okay, when you see a job description and you're worried that you don't fit every single part of that description, it's okay. Just if you feel like you can fill half of what they're asking for, go ahead and apply and take that risk and just say, you know, I think I can do most of this and I'm willing to learn the things that I don't know.
I think for the designers in the room, focus on your portfolio. Treat your portfolio like a UX project. So, like, what persona are you is going to look at your portfolio? It's a recruiter who has 2 minutes and is looking at 50 other portfolios in the span of an hour. So what can you do to really engage them and draw their attention in 2 minutes? Are they looking at it on their phone? Are they looking at it on a desktop computer? It should look good on any device. And also a really nice case study. Don't just have like really high fidelity, beautiful mocks of like the final thing that you designed. I want to see the process. I want to see what problem are you solving? How did you specifically contribute to solving that problem? So yeah, portfolio, that's the very first step.
Well, I was also going to say portfolio is very important. I don't have a design background, and then I kind of moved into UX later in my career, and I was really intimidated about making a portfolio, but I actually think it turned out to be a really good opportunity for networking, to tell people about like what you're thinking about including and getting people's feedback on it really helped me, I think, become better at UX and design.
I think in terms of a portfolio and case studies, and as you're doing any sort of project, just think about the impact that you're making. That doesn't always come down to, you know, I moved the needle by X%. It could also be something like, you know, I helped to clarify the problem so that we can reach this outcome. So it could be, you know, not just numbers and not just qualitative, or not just quantitative, but qualitative as well. And just, you know, as you're going through your process, just think about what are the contributions that I'm making and how can I document those things in a way that shows the unique value that I'm bringing.
So Tracy, what is something that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
I think I learned about meetups like this really late, and I don't know if it's just that they just weren't around as much. I've been in my career for a really long time. I must say how long. It's been a long time, and I think that networking is really vital. It just, like you said, our roles change so quickly, and it really does help to know what other roles are out there and what are similar and what are the differences, and it helps you so that you can move to the next level and understand what's necessary. But you really need to be able to talk to people who are already doing that so that you can gain that perspective.
So the question is, what was something you wish you knew earlier in your career? So my answer to that is, I think I wish that I knew that just because there's something unique about me that maybe makes me different than others on my team or, you know, others at my job, those are positive things because those help me to have a unique perspective to problem solving. You know, any experiences that you've had professionally or personally in your life are going to give you some sort of advantage. I think that representation is super important, and I think that when I'm working with a team, I'm representing other people like me. You know, we all work in UX and we represent the users. So I have a unique opportunity to, you know, represent myself, but other people like me as well. So.
So we all had to get through interviews here to get jobs. Sounds so obvious. So Annabeth, what was your interview process like at Indeed?
So my role is a design technologist, and if you don't know what that is, it's often different between companies. So at Indeed, what it is I sit on the user experience team, and I'm sort of a bridge between design and development. A lot of what I do is helping, like collaborating with designers to make prototypes that we can test in a usability lab, or remotely, or just internally, so we can see how features might actually look. So my interview process kind of reflected a lot of parts of this hybrid role. So I had a phone screen, I had a code exercise, which involved obviously like building something with code, but allowed you to show a lot of creativity. And then I came to Indeed and I met with designers, and I had a tech component of the interview, and there was also more like culture fit kind of interviews as well.
I will speak for some of the UX research side of the house. So I had a phone screen with the recruiter. I then had a phone screen with the hiring manager. After that, I had a homework exercise. And then after the homework exercise, I had an on-site interview. An on-site interview included my skip level, my current manager. I had a whiteboarding exercise with a designer and a PM. I had a portfolio review, and then I had a moderation exercise as a researcher. And I think we have some similar experiences over there, except I don't think the non-researchers had a research exercise. All right, so moving on to product development at Indeed. So Irina, what does the product development lifecycle look like for you and your team?
So my role is a little unusual because I work with a lot of product teams, focusing on two larger products, profiles and resume. But I would say that with slight differences, the life cycle would be similar. The teams work in sprints, trying to get as many experiments out as possible. We like to move fast whenever possible to experiment with different features, get learning, and just keep iterating on them. When it comes to a larger feature, I think that's when we work much closer with UX teams, trying to get the necessary learnings before, during, and after, and then always keep iterating and making updates, improvements to the product.
So I am embedded on our profile team, and I work with a couple different sort of sub-teams in that team. And our life cycle is also in sprints. My role often comes in at kind of different times. Sometimes I work at the very beginning when we're sort of designing and ideating. Sometimes I get brought in later for more prototyping work.
So Kira, how does Indeed get feedback from job seekers?
So we collect a lot of feedback from job seekers. Some of the research methods we employ to get feedback from job seekers, a lot of usability testing, diary studies, benchmarks, you name it. If you've heard about it, we probably do it here. We also collect a lot of in-product feedback through small-scale surveys, things like NPS. We often collect in the product, and we use those verbatims in the product team to kind of understand like where our priorities should be. We apply the feedback also by talking with our PM partners, our design partners, our DT partners, our content partners, to kind of figure out, what are our next steps, what should we be working on to make a great experience for our users. We don't just collect feedback from job seekers, we also collect feedback from employers, because that is the other side of the coin, right? We have employers on our website as well looking for job seekers, and we have job seekers for employers to contact. So, yeah.
So what roles are you all collaborating with, and in what capacity?
I collaborate most closely with designers on my team. So either if I'm working on something and designing something, I'll collaborate with them to get feedback for like final fit and finish. Sometimes I talk to designers earlier in the process to kind of figure out the technical constraints of something, what would actually be possible, what we can build for a prototype, if our actual product would support the thing we're working on. So mostly designers, also product management. Really touches a lot of parts of the team. Engineers, sometimes I have to hand off things to engineers and kind of explain through the prototypes that we've made.
I was recently on the Indeed forums. We just rebuilt the community. And so I actually worked a lot outside of UX, and I represented UX and content strategy with other teams that were actually in Austin. So I worked a lot remotely with them. And that was more of marketing and some of our technical business analysts. And then we partnered with our new platform owner, and they're also based in Austin. So I really got to experience working with not just with UX and product managers, but outside of our world too.
As a researcher, I work very closely with my design partners. I also work closely with PM, like I said, to align on business priorities and product priorities. So what common tools and practices do you use when working together? Nicole, you're up.
I can speak to tools. So Jira is probably the main place where we're collecting business requirements, reporting on deadlines, reporting on progress, things like that. It's kind of how we all keep in touch with what's going on with any particular project. But as far as the more fun stuff on the day-to-day, the tool that we've really kind of adopted as a UX team in the past year is Figma. And so I see a lot of heads nodding, you're familiar. We like it quite a bit. Me personally, as a content strategist, I love that I can use Figma to modify copy, move around copy elements, and just really kind of have a very collaborative relationship with my UX designers. I think some other tools that I've used, I've kind of had to rely on others to make changes for me and implement my recommendations. So Figma is a tool that I really enjoy using in that I have a little bit more control and it's just easier to collaborate.
I've been using Balsamic a lot lately with my team because we're doing a lot of concept testing. So I work on the interview scheduling team, and we're building a part of the product that doesn't exist at all. And if we were to create like a super high fidelity version of that and put it through user research, we would get mainly feedback on the usability aspects of it and not actually whether the concept resonates or not. So it's been really fun to kind of like get out of Sketch and get out of Figma and just like focus on the bare elements and just like communicating the core concept and getting feedback on that from users as opposed to watching them walk through this like perfect design, perfect prototype. And then in terms of what practices we do a ton of design sprints at Indeed. So many design sprints. And they're great. They're especially great for like what I just said, when you have identified a huge business problem, but you're not really sure the best way to solve it. So we a lot of times use like the Google Ventures sprint model, where it's sort of like a 5-day sprint, and the first day is hearing from all the stakeholders and really making like a journey map, defining the problems, identifying like the biggest things to zero in on as part of the sprint, and then collaborating with a multidisciplinary group of PMs, engineers, to create and test a prototype with users by Friday. So it's kind of intense, but it's really a rewarding experience. So that's one of the practices I think that really kind of defines the UX team at Indeed.